Thanks for checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board. If you enjoy it, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and you can check out all of my work, including the 2022 Rookie Big Board rankings at patreon.com/thefeducator. This is Mock Draft 3.0 for the Rookie Big Board in the 2022 Rookie Draft season. I am your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, and I am excited for this mock draft. It's been about a month since my last one here, so it's going to be really interesting to see some ADP and trend changes here. I've been participating in a lot of mock drafts, been completing a lot of evaluations. I should add that the Rookie Big Board now has 85 final evaluations with this 2022 rookie class. If you want to get access to those evaluations, head on over to patreon.com/thefFeducator, just $3 a month, and you could actually save 15% now with an annual membership. This is the time to do it. I have to add into the Discord is an absolutely fantastic bonus resource as well. Super active. We're talking rookies, trades, personalized roster advice nearly every day. Now let's go ahead and jump into it here. This will be a 4-round mock draft. I'm going to go 6 picks at a time here and highlight one player in each of those set of 6 here. You'll catch on here as we jump into it, but let's go ahead and start with Kenny Pickett. He is going to be the 101. Now, I understand the debate here about whether or not a quarterback will go 101. At this point in time, I still think when folks see Kenny Pickett go off the board as a top 5, top 10 NFL draft selection, which is what I expect, they're going to push him up. And again, as with all of my mock drafts, this is not just what I would do, this is how I'm judging trends and projecting forward for everybody, but certainly there is my own influence into this, and Kenny Pickett is my current quarterback one. Now the 102 is Treylon Burks, so I'm going to quickly pivot, even as Superflex here, to non-quarterback positions. There's a lot of talk out there that Treylon Burks could be the 101. At this point in time, I'm not knocking you if you want to take him at the 101 in the Superflex. I'm still taking Pickett, but Burks is right there. We're going to follow that up with Isaiah Spiller, the running back out of Texas A&M at 103. Matt Corral, the quarterback, 104 out of Ole Miss. Breece Hall, 105, the second running back off the board here out of Iowa State. And at 106 is the player that I want to focus in on, and that is Drake London, the wide receiver out of USC. Now, Drake London here, a big-bodied, athletic wide receiver here, played inside in 2020 for USC despite being 6'5", 220. He played outside along the boundary for the Trojans this year. He shows the ability, the versatility to do both. Despite being 6'5", he's very fluid, very athletic. And the reason that I pushed him up here to 106, the wide receiver 2 off the board in this mock draft, is because that is what I'm seeing with the mock drafts that I'm doing with analysts out there, with the Discord channel here, with folks just kind of generally out there doing mock drafts, active players, active dynasty managers here. I am seeing that Drake London is climbing up and up boards here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Drake London does end up as my wide receiver 2. Right now, he's my wide receiver 3, so it's very close here with Chris Olave, who I'm a big fan of, but I wouldn't doubt if by the time the draft capital comes here, post-NFL draft, if Drake London is not a higher selection for me. All right, let's jump on to the next 6 players here, starting at 107 with Kenneth Walker, 108 Chris Olave, 109 Garrett Wilson, 110 is another quarterback off the board, Sam Howell out of North Carolina, and then a pair of wide receivers to finish things off here in the first round, 111 Jameson Williams, 112 George Pickens. Now, there are some new names if you've been following along here with the mock drafts, and certainly Kenneth Walker at 107, he kind of rounds out that top tier of running backs here, and then we hit wide receiver territory. It's really going to be choose your favorite wide receiver, and that's what I want to stress for folks here. Over the next couple weeks, or next couple months, I should say, focus in on learning who your favorite wide receiver is, because I don't care whether you take Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams. Those guys are probably going to be pretty interchangeable depending on what your preference is and whose tape you enjoy the most. Now, I worked in George Pickens here at 112. Pickens is a fast riser once he did actually declare for the 2022 NFL draft. I gotta be honest, I thought he was coming back, so I've been holding him out of the mock drafts. He does declare. We're looking at a high upside player, a great athlete, fantastic hands, contested catch monster, right? High pedigree coming out of college, or coming out of high school and into college. Now, limited volume in a Georgia offense that doesn't really highlight wide receivers well. And, of course, the injury that kept him basically out of the entire season. He did come back for the college football playoffs, and he did have some flashes, but for the most part, he missed the entire 2021 season. The key question with George Pickens is he still going to be a top 50 pick? Is the NFL still going to value him as a late day one, early day two player? If they do, George Pickens is probably going to go off the first round of your rookie drafts. Now, honing in a little bit here on the quarterback situation, folks seem to have slid on Sam Howell. They were somebody who has been really high in the Devy community for years. He hasn't really improved at North Carolina. He's always been a good quarterback. And I have Sam Howell here at 110 because I think if you did a mock draft right now, even in Superflex, it wouldn't be surprising for Sam Howell to slip out of the first round. But I do expect Sam Howell to be a top 15, top 20 NFL draft selection. And I think that once he gets that draft capital, folks are going to be right back in on him. He could hit the sweet spot of ending up with some good weapons behind him. I've seen a lot of mock drafts right now where Sam Howell is going to Pittsburgh. If Sam Howell goes to Pittsburgh, he's going to push for my quarterback one potentially because of those weapons around him. Howell is somebody who has done very well with weapons around him, has struggled when those weapons haven't been there. So potentially more than any other quarterback in this year's draft, Sam Howell's landing spot is going to be critical for his fantasy football value. Let's go ahead and jump into the second round here of this 4-round Superflex mock draft. 201, Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty, slides into the second round. Then it's David Bell, the wide receiver out of Purdue at 202. My guy, Kyren Williams, coming in at 203, the running back from Notre Dame. 204, Jahan Dotson, wide receiver, Penn State. 205, Rachaad White, the running back out of Arizona State. And then 206, Tyler Allegier, the running back out of BYU. Now, what I want to point out here off the bat is 201 through 204 players that I'm still very excited about. Not because I'm excited about a lot of players, but I want to point out that these 4 picks in general, because it almost extends the first round, right, into the top 16 picks. And I get that question a lot, where is the cutoff point for a valuable second round pick? And for me, there is never a cutoff point because second round picks hit consistently and a lot more than we believe that they do. But really in this year's draft right now, I'm looking at the top 16 because I think you have a good argument to take Willis, Bell, Williams, and Dotson in the first round if you're taking Pickens and Howell and Jamison Williams, right? So I think that these players are really interchangeable here. And then you have a pair of running backs. I honed in on Rachaad White in mock draft 2.0, so I won't dig into that. But Tyler Allegier is a player that I have come around on. And so I have totally left him off of mock drafts. And this is what's really good. This is why I love when you all drop comments. Let me know how you feel about players, who I'm too high on, who I'm too low on. And please feel free to do that. If you're watching the video, if you're listening, tag me or drop it in the Discord channel. Let me know. I love hearing this because this is a player that I've been talking to analysts with and I've been doing mock drafts and I kept seeing him come up in that second round. And through those conversations, and I hadn't gotten to Allegier's tape review yet. I didn't like his 2020 tape. I really didn't. I wouldn't have drafted him in the second round. His 2021 tape, I had put it off because I wasn't that excited about it. Well, when I actually flipped it on, I saw some really high upside with him. He's really athletic for his size. He's explosive. Now, I think his testing metrics are going to be huge to decide whether the NFL actually likes him or not. But he was super productive at BYU. He's explosive on tape. He's athletic. I think he can translate to the passing game of an NFL offense. So I think that Allegier is going to be a really popular second round selection here in rookie drafts. And so he definitely deserves this 206 spot. All right, let's finish up the second round here. 207, Jerome Ford, the running back out of Cincinnati, one of my guys. 208, Carson Strong, the quarterback out of Nevada. 209, a fan favorite, Wan'Dale Robinson, the wide receiver out of Kentucky. 210, Trey McBride, the first tight end off the board out of Colorado State. John Mechie slides to 211, the wide receiver out of Alabama. And then somebody that might be slightly higher on than you, and that is Michigan's running back Hassan Haskins. Now, 2 guys that I really want to hone in here on this group of 6. Wan'Dale Robinson, the wide receiver out of Kentucky. Super athletic, super fun, Robinson scares me. I gotta be honest with you, and I'm a huge Wan'Dale Robinson fan. I've got him stashed on a lot of Devy rosters. I've been holding on to him. It's going to be really critical, the offense that he lands in, and not just because, so for folks who may not be as familiar, Wan'Dale Robinson, he has the ability to do a lot of different things. He can catch the ball, he can run the ball, he can have those manufactured targets at the line of scrimmage, all right, and he's a decent route runner as well. He's got really solid hands, but I need to be able to project out volume for Wan'Dale Robinson, right? Or he could go the way of Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore in his rookie season was super efficient, right? But he didn't have the volume despite being in a high volume offense. So not only am I hoping Wan'Dale Robinson lands in a high volume offense, but I'm also hoping it's an offense where those touches aren't already spoken for or spread out too much. So right now, actually, Wan'Dale Robinson would be a third round selection for me, but I pushed him up to 209 because I'm seeing consistently that he is going in the second round of Superflex mock drafts. Now, Trey McBride is my tight end one right now. McBride is a fantastic pass catcher. He's athletic for his size. He's a good blocker. Right now, I do think that Trey McBride has a shot to be tight end one off the board in the 2022 NFL draft, and that's really going to help propel him here. Now, it's a down tight end class. We're not going to deny that, but you will hear me rattle off a few tight end names here through the end of this. If this is a year where you need a tight end on your fantasy roster, I'd suggest you trade for one. Maybe try to go get Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson right now. Pay up a little bit for those young tight ends. But if you want to go through the draft, I would go for Trey McBride at this point in time. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the third round here. We're going to go with Jalen Tolbert, the wide receiver out of the University of South Alabama at 301. 302, Jalen Weidemeyer, second tight end off the board here for Texas A&M. 303, we take our shot on Cincinnati quarterback Desmond Ridder. 304, Brian Robinson, the running back out of Alabama, who I have been higher on. I think his ADP in fantasy value will push into the second round once those testing numbers come in through Indy. 305, Skyy Moore, somebody who has been skyrocketing up ADP recently. And 305, Zonovan Bam Knight, one of my guys that I've had my eye on for years coming out of North Carolina State. Now let's go ahead and hone in on Skyy Moore. I wanted to highlight him in particular here, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan. He has been rocketing up ADP right now. Folks have kind of caught on to Skyy Moore, and he fits a lot of analytics molds. High market share, highly efficient, highly productive there for Western Michigan. But I think there's a lot to like about Skyy Moore's tape evaluation as well. He has sharp footwork. He's a crisp route runner. At times you could see him absolutely put defensive backs on skates. He runs a really sharp slant route. I love when my wide receivers run good slant routes and effective post route. And he's quicker than he is fast necessarily, but he does accelerate well downfield. Here's going to be the big question. How is Skyy Moore going to be utilized in the NFL? He's a little undersized to be playing along the boundary, which is what he did at Western Michigan playing against MAC opponents, right? So he's going to have to be able to move inside for an NFL team and have that same level of effectiveness. Now, I just talked about his route running ability and his quickness, and I think those are things that are going to help you create space right off the line of scrimmage from the inside in the NFL. So I think there is still reason to like Skyy Moore a ton as a third round pick, right? I tell folks all the time, accumulate as many third round picks as possible. Give yourself some dart throws here, and Skyy Moore is absolutely a dart throw that I am willing to take. I'm also a big fan of Zonovan Knight here, 306. I think folks might be surprised how early he goes in the 2022 NFL draft. Let's jump into the second half of the third round of this four-round rookie mock draft. 307, James Cook, the running back out of Georgia, has been gaining a lot of momentum after his performance in the college football playoffs. 308, Jerrion Ealy, the running back out of Mississippi. Now, Jerrion Ealy is a guy that I have had stashed everywhere. I don't have to draft him in rookie drafts. I probably still will, but I don't have to because he's on all my Campus to Canton rosters already in Devy squad, so he's just going to get promoted right up. 309, Zamir White, the running back out of Georgia. Now, arguably, I would say as a pure runner, it's not even a contest here. It's Zamir White is a much better pure runner than his backfield mate, James Cook, in between the tackles at the goal line, but James Cook does offer that PPR upside. And Zamir White has the injury history, and I'm worried the injury history is going to turn the NFL off on him. I think either way, if you're drafting James Cook or Zamir White, either Bulldog backfield mate at the back end of the third round, you're going to be getting a player worth putting at the bottom of your roster, worth adding to your taxi squad here, and potentially being an impact player down the line. 310 Calvin Austin the third, the wide receiver out of Memphis. Very undersized. He's coming in about $160 here. Not quite as small as Tutu Atwell, but a similar mold. We saw Atwell get the draft capital, right? And so Calvin Austin could end up falling in a similar range. Austin is a fantastic special teams player, and I think he's a lock to be a top 100 pick. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl, and if he performs well there, his stock is only going to increase. Khalil Shakir, I love Khalil Shakir, the wide receiver out of Boise State. Shakir actually comes in here as a top 15 wide receiver for me in a talented wide receiver class. He's fluid. He combines athleticism with physicality here. He's got great short area quickness, lateral agility, and is an elusive player in space with the ball in his hands here. So a lot to like about Khalil Shakir. And I'm going to be soaking him up with a high exposure. And then Romeo Doubs, somebody who I'm a little bit lower on than most other folks here, but I'm going to slide him in here 3-0-12. He can stretch the deep field. He can be a vertical threat. So certainly you want to be interested here in seeing which quarterback he lines up with. Is it going to be a quarterback with a big arm that could utilize him in the deep third of the field where I think he's most effective? Or is it going to be a quarterback here that's going to rely on him working more in the short and midfield? That's not necessarily what I'm interested in for Romeo Doubs. So we're going to be watching not only his landing spot, but what does the quarterback play look like there? And then we're going to now jump into the fourth round. We're digging deep here. I got to tell you, I had to cut it off at 4 rounds. I could do 8 rounds. I've evaluated 85 guys, and I thought about doing a 5 or 6 rounder. Maybe we'll get there at some point, but we got to cut it off here. We got to be realistic, so I'm going to do just 4 rounds. 401, Isaiah Likely, the tight end out of Coastal Carolina. I got to tell you, a fan favorite. Isaiah Likely might end up with a 3rd round ADP because folks really like him. Likely is interesting. You know, you think of a tight end coming out of Coastal Carolina and you expect him to have a low recruiting pedigree. A 4-star recruit Likely was coming out of Massachusetts, wants to go down and play at Coastal Carolina, and there's a good reason there. He's athletic, he's fluid. You see a little bit of Evan Ingram in the way that he approaches the game, not quite at that same level of NFL readiness right away, but that same kind of play style and approach. 402, Eric Azukanama, the wide receiver out of Texas Tech. I got to tell you, I really wish that more folks were on Azukanama, or maybe not. Maybe I don't, because I think in the 4th round here, you have a really talented wide receiver here, a big body, a good fluidity for his size. He accelerates really well working in a straight line. He runs a really nice comeback route, and he's effective working vertically. And when you can combine those two things and you play along the boundary as he does, it can be a secret for success quickly in the NFL. 403, Tyler Beatty, the running back out of Mizzou. Now, Beatty is an interesting guy. He's gaining a lot of momentum, highly productive for the Tigers. His past season, invited to the Senior Bowl. He's going to be a pass-catching guy. So if you're looking for PPR upside in the 4th round here, I think that's where you go in on Tyler Beatty. 404, Bailey Zappi. All right, listen, it's the 4th round. It's a quarterback. Bailey Zappi, I do think, is still going to be a day 2 selection, so top 100 pick. And if he is, that means he's probably going to get a shot to start at some point in the NFL. I love Bailey Zappi. He's a fun story. He's got a big arm here. He's got to work on those mechanics. Now, he was a 0-star recruit. All right, playing at the FCS level, transfers to Western Kentucky for a year. An NFL coaching staff could absolutely invest in this guy, hone up those mechanics, believe in him, give him a redshirt year. And in the 4th round here in a Superflex league, why not take a shot on Bailey Zappi? 405, Charleston Rambo, my guy, another person on all my C2C rosters, all my Devy rosters. I don't have to draft him. And I got to tell you, I really think Charleston Rambo is going to outperform a 4th round ADP. I just couldn't push him higher because I'm not seeing folks catch on to him yet, but I am going to hype up Charleston Rambo, and I'm going to do it as much as I can. And I got to tell you, ring the bell here, sleeper alert at 406, Emeka, the wide receiver out of North Carolina State. I just finished up his tape yesterday, actually, and I got to tell you, I was so excited about what he could be potentially as a guy you could stash at the bottom of your roster and potentially be an impact player at the next level. He combines great size with great handwork and effective route running. Now, he's not a burner, but he does have the ability to get off the line of scrimmage quickly and play with fluidity. He's physical. He fights through contested catch situations there. And I thought he really elevated this North Carolina State offense here. So Emezie is somebody that I'm very much interested in, and I will take at 406 100 out of 100 times. 407, another sleeper alert here. I wanted to put them back next to each other. Jashuan, Corbin, the running back out of Florida State here. I really liked Corbin's tape when I saw it. Now, he's somebody who hasn't had a lot of volume. He started at Texas A&M, was a highly anticipated recruit, ends up transferring to Florida State after he can't really get on the field there at Texas A&M, ends up suffering an injury at Florida State. So Corbin's kind of been up and down throughout his career here, but he is a sneaky good prospect, all right? He shoots off the line of scrimmage quickly. He gets to the second level of the field. He has explosiveness that combines with high-end straight line acceleration. He's a home run threat on any handoff, and he's strong too. He's got great contact balance, not afraid to work through the A-gap here. There's a lot to like about Jashuan Corbin. Kevin Austin, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame, at 408. At 409, it's Dontario Drummond, the athletic wide receiver out of Mississippi here. 410, Zaquandre White, the running back out of the University of South Carolina. Now, this is another player here who these guys tend to fall under the radar here when they don't have as much volume. Now, I want to clarify here. Zaquandre White is raw, all right? He doesn't quite have the vision for the NFL yet. He hasn't consistently been able to get a feel for when to hit gaps, when to work through gaps, but he is an athletic freak, all right? He's a big man that is going to test very, very well at the combine here. He got invited to the Senior Bowl late, and what that tells me is that NFL teams are on him, all right? You don't get invited to the Senior Bowl with limited volume in college if you are not legitimately being considered as at least an early day 3 selection from NFL teams. So Zaquandre White might be somebody who folks are surprised that is drafted as early as he is. So I had to make sure to put him in this mock draft. I feel terrible putting Alec Pierce at 411, the wide receiver to Cincinnati, because I love the big man. I love the way he can play along the boundary. I'll take him well before 411, but I'm not seeing folks really catch on in that same way. And again, I'm not just running through my top 48 rankings here. I'm trying to give you an idea of what I'm seeing out there in terms of consensus, in terms of mock drafting here, and finishing it up at 412 here. The mighty how they have fallen. It's Justin Ross at 412, the wide receiver out of Clemson. Until he's cleared medically through Indianapolis as part of the combine, just going to proceed with caution with Justin Ross. And he struggled with his tape in 2021. We've seen the upside here. We've seen what Justin Ross can be. 2 years ago, he probably would have been a first-round selection in fantasy drafts. So somebody who I'm not certainly giving up on yet, but also somebody who I'm just going to proceed with a little bit of caution at this point in time. Now, that is my top 48 players here. Definitely make sure to let me know who I was too high on, who I was too low on, who I snubbed. I dropped 48 players, but I'm sure, snubbed somebody that you really like. And again, if you want to check out all 85 final evaluations I have, jump into the Discord. It's patreon.com/thefeducator, and you can get access to the Rookie Big Board rankings for just $3 a month, or you can save 15% off now with an annual membership. And as always, I appreciate you checking out this episode